Yes, yes. Welcome to another episode of Motherfucking Valuable Perspectives. I am so excited for y'all today. We got a super special show. We got my man Larry from Planned Profit back with us. We
Yo,
have Reem, who is just a super talented artist who's going to be talking about her journey in crypto for the first time. So make sure y'all stick around. Yes. So today we wanted to bring y'all together because, you know, in crypto and there's all these different things that are happening in the world. We wanted to kind of share our journeys and talk to the audience about building generational wealth. So before we kind of dive in, first I want the audience to understand, who are y'all? What is like a brief background? And, how did you get to where you are today? So, Reem, why don't you jump us off since you're the new guest?
All right. Thank you for having me. All right. So, Reem Salmi, singer songwriter, originally from Morocco, grew up in Canada. I operate a little record label that I've been building for a few years now. Before that, I was in commercial real estate, and that's what was funding my career. Because I never wanted to be vulnerable to the record label. So I always found ways to make it work. And yeah, I've been doing the music thing, doing the funding, doing the team building, and started diving into crypto because of that. So that's what brought me into crypto is figuring out ways to make the label work.
That's amazing. We all need new ways to look at being artists, and not being slaves to some of these record labels and the things they do. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about your journey. And I hear you have some NFTs coming too, so stay tuned for that, y'all. And Larry, why don't you tell us about your background and kind of how you got into crypto and some of the things you're up to these days?
so shout out to all y'all out there. Thank you, Reem, for being on with us today. Enrico, you my guy. I'm always tapped in with you. But I actually started in crypto a few years ago, trying to make a bet for a football game. And so before that, I was into experiential and I was just doing a lot of like work with the things that I like to do with production. But I was trying to make a bet on a game, couldn't pay in US dollars. And so when the guy from Bovada, I think it was, reached out to me and told me I could use Coinbase, I logged on to send some Bitcoin. When I started checking out the prices and things like that, it was like, yo, like these returns are better than any game I could gamble on. Like, why would I gamble on a game? You feel me? And after that, I was just knee deep into it. I like the research, so I got into it. So now I'm doing a lot of just researching and consulting, always trying to look for what's next, always looking to build generational wealth. And I feel like I kind of been called to really have these conversations and share this information with the people, with our people specifically, with our culture. So I've been knee deep in that, man, just really trying to study, learn as much as I can, and then share that information with the masses and really like let people know what's really going on, because it's a lot of crazy stuff going on where we can really take advantage of a lot of these opportunities and really position ourselves for, like we were talking about, generational wealth. So that's a little bit about me, so make sure y'all tap in.
That's awesome. So, Reem, why don't you tell us a little bit of like how you first discovered crypto and how you stumbled into it? Tell the audience, what first got your attention and made you take the plunge.
What first got my attention is I had a team of 5 people on my payroll. And 2 months later, I had no idea how I would be able to pay them. I had run out of any money I had. I had almost run out of any credit I had. And I still wasn't seeing the money coming in the way it was supposed to. Everything was taking longer. And that's just the nature of business. Like if you
Mm,
plan for something to be done in 3 months, it's going to get done in 4 or 5 because so many things you don't plan for. And team building is one of those things that really just takes time. And so November 2020 is when I was like, oh, can we swear on this show?
yeah, yeah. all
Oh
day.
shit, fuck. No, I'm kidding. So I was like, I don't know. I've been holding back so much.
Let it all out.
Um, um, I was like, okay, I don't know. It was November, and I was like, in February, I don't know how I'm gonna pay my rent or my people, and I don't want to let them go because I had spent so much energy and resources into building a team. And so there was someone I was following on Instagram before Larry, and someone I was following on Instagram that was offering courses on trading. And so I was like, oh, I don't want to go back to selling real estate because selling real estate requires me to be in Montreal a lot more. And I wanted to stay in LA and keep building my music stuff. And I got into trading, started trading options, got wrecked. And then I was like, oh no, I lost even more money that I couldn't afford to lose. And the reason I lost money is because I can't do anything that I'm not passionate about. And if I'm doing it just for the money, it just doesn't work for me. I'm just not that kind of person. And so the same person had an intro to Bitcoin course. It's Armando Pantoja, by the way, really great person that teaches it very simply. And so I took the intro to Bitcoin and I was hooked on I know everybody likes to say that as a joke, like, oh, you're here for the technology, but I'm actually here for the technology. I was hooked. I felt like every protocol that I was studying was fixing a problem in real life that I found so annoying, an inefficiency of the system. And I was like, yes, like DeFi was fixing all of my problems from like having money in Canada and having to spend it here. Like all of these things, I was having my account frozen because some entity decided that I owed them money that I didn't owe them. Then I had to prove that I didn't owe them. And I was just like, all of these things were fixed by some protocol, right? And so I actually dove really deep. I was in it, like watching videos. And then that's when I found out about Larry, and I was consuming so many, like all of your videos. And then whenever you would mention something, I would go and research it even more. And so I got into it because I needed money, but I stayed for the tech.
I love that. You know
Yeah.
what that makes me think about is the concept that we want to talk about today, like what are emergent technologies? And me and Larry were talking about this earlier, right? So if you think all the way back, right, you have the concept of like the wheel, right? You have steel, you have the railroad, you have cars, right? You have the airplanes, the internet, and then it brings us to social media, right? And that's kind of like where we are today with blockchain. It's like this, instead of like thinking about it as crypto or thinking about it as NFTs, right? I think about it as blockchain, as this new emergent technology. And to your point, Reem, they actually solve all these problems, right? Like as far as I think the custody issue is like amazing. The fact that you can actually own something digital and nobody can take that from you as long as you're actually taking care of your security, right? And so I really would love to hear some of your ideas and just opinions on like blockchain being this emergent technology. Like Reem, I know you're tapping into NFTs for your music potentially, and just like how do you think this technology is going to continue to emerge? We have Meta coming out, and these integrations are naturally coming up.
From my very obviously limited experience of it, I feel like it's just removed a lot of the middlemen. Like, back when I had like a team of 6, 2 of my employees were out of the country, out of America, of North America, and I can get them paid in a few seconds. When I have to go through the banking system, it takes 7 days. 7 days. Why does it take 7? Like, you know what I mean? So for me, I've just noticed it just taking away some middlemen, like the refinancing. I don't know if you've ever tried to refinance a house, but it's hell. Have you tried to refinance your crypto? Few seconds, right? And so for me, it just removes a lot of the intermediaries that were taking a lot of money too from the system.
Right.
And now that they're removed, the benefits just go straight to the people who are transacting. So those are the applications I'm seeing right now. There's probably way more being built, but just that is enough for me to be like, yep.
Yeah, reimagining
build more.
money is so important. Yeah, Larry, what are your thoughts on this emergent technology?
I think you made a really good point about how it's kind of like the next iteration of this whole process that we've seen throughout history, right? So you have like the wheel, then you have like the railroad, you have steel, you have cars, you have airplanes. And so I think that social media component that you were talking about, now that we've kind of moved into like this decentralized functioning, like the blockchain is really what just set everything off, right? Because a lot of like everything we do every day is based on transactions. And
Hmm.
so the whole goal is to be able to facilitate trust. And so that's kind of where these middlemen come in, like Reem was talking about. Like their job is to kind of like broker that trust, right? But we know humans do human shit, right? So it's like a lot of times they'll position themselves in these systems to where it's like they benefit, even though they kind of serving you, really they still serving themselves. You feel me? And so,
Hmm.
like you were saying, a lot of the limitations and a lot of the like loops that we have to deal with are just what were just a byproduct of middlemen really putting themselves before the people. You feel me? And so I think with this emerging technology, really with like blockchain, crypto, Bitcoin, things like that. I think it's helping us to move into this completely different like universe where like the power is really starting to shift back into the hands of like the everyday person. You know what I'm saying? Like Reem was saying, she can now perform functions as her own bank in some ways. You feel me? Like paying her clients, paying her workers, or paying her employees within seconds cross border. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of stuff was unheard of. So I really think with this emerging tech, we're really moving into this whole like world where like everything is going to be decentralized. To your point, Enrico, like you were saying, maybe it started with Bitcoin, right? Like you start with the wheel, and now you got race cars. You feel me? Or you started with like the plane on the mountain with the Wright brothers, but now you got like supersonic jets. I think it's the same thing with the emerging tech as far as crypto. Like we started with Bitcoin, right? But now we got into Ethereum. You feel me?
Yep.
Then we get into like nodes, and you being able to secure a node without having to do all the technical, all the way to like decentralized healthcare. It will come. We saw that episode on billions, right? I don't know if you saw it, Reem, but there was an episode a couple weeks ago where Taylor was talking about blockchain, decentralized internet. You feel me? And how the blockchain was helping to decentralize internet service so that the whole city of New York could have free internet. You feel me? So it's like all these different applications to where it's like the same thing throughout history. But I think that's where we're headed. I think we're headed to like this completely trustless, decentralized like world where like, and it's almost too good to be true. You feel me? But like literally the power is being put back into the hands of the people, and it's like high level opportunities. You know what I mean? So I think that's where we're headed, bro. Like I think we're headed to like this whole decentralized world. Like, money is usually the first iteration because, money is money, just like in history, like the first writings was money records, you know what I mean, of accounting. But, you know, it's gonna drip over into like every like nuance of how we live. And so it's exciting. You know what I mean? That's where I think we're headed though, like
Yeah, I think the concept of the middleman is so important for people to understand, right? And because I remember listening to this VC, he was talking. It was at like a South by Southwest event, and essentially what he was talking about was technology continues to get better, right? So there's this thing called Moore's law, which I believe it's every 2 years the processing speed of computers doubles, right? So you look at every 2 years, the processing is doubling and doubling and doubling. So that's why you see computers getting faster and faster over a period of time. And what he was explaining is technology continues to get better every year. But what happens with the companies is they don't pass those savings on to the consumer because
Mm.
the technology continues to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, right? With Wi-Fi, like they used to have to pay a lot more for long distance. Now they're able to use fiber optic cables. So the cost to the company has dramatically been going down over the years, but their profits have been going up, right? And so he was basically explaining that there's getting ready to be this huge emergence. Something this was before, I mean, this was literally before crypto was really banging. And so I think that he was kind of predicting like those middlemen, like that energy needed to go somewhere, right? And it's like you could have a disruptive technology that could replace them, right? So you could have like maybe a startup is taking over an incumbent, right? Because this incumbent just keeps charging more, and the startup can afford to come to this traditional business and say, look, we're going to cut the price, you know, 2/3, because we're using this emergent technology to deliver the same value, right? So you can see that happening. But now with the emergent of Bitcoin, Ethereum, I think that the middlemen are actually becoming us decentralized, right? And so we can all say, we can all come together with a platform or a protocol and say, we'll be the middlemen together, and that's enough, right? That's enough power that can actually push the protocol forward. So I think that it's so brilliant to just understand like where middlemen have been throughout history in this emergent technology and how they've been in some ways like abusing the consumer. And so this emergent technology of Bitcoin, Ethereum, you know, blockchain, smart contracts is kind of like a natural evolution, you know, from the consumer side that's like defending the price of things. It's kind of like free market, you know.
Yeah.
Precisely.
So I wanted to ask y'all, you know, how do you look at long-term investments? You know, we're none of us have our gray hairs yet. You know, mine might be coming in soon, but you know, this is something that I think all of the people who are really serious about building generational wealth, like that's the concept, right? It's a long-term investment. So I'm just curious, you know, how do you two look at this concept?
Want to take it, Larry?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I'm in a special position where I've made a decision a few years ago where my um, generational wealth was going to be my IP, and so mostly from my music. I used to be in real estate, and so I've owned real estate, and I was in that world. I've owned one property, but I did a lot with it, so it was a good property. Um, but I was in that cycle where I was like following the traditional wealth uh, vehicles because I was in that world. But now I'm realizing that the real long term things are, let's say, a crypto portfolio that you never, ever, ever touch.
Mhm.
I don't have that luxury just yet because so much overhead to get these things started. But um, for me, it'll I'm at a place where I keep a little bit that I never touch, and it's crazy because it's something my mom always did when we were kids. Um, but it is true that if you put a certain amount that you tell yourself just doesn't exist, somehow you get creative and you figure it out
Mhm.
and you figure out the rest. And so
Mhm.
now I have certain things that in my head are like these are the things I will never ever touch, and the rest of my wealth building is in my IP. And so my
Mhm.
a lot of my focus right now is in music and creating IP things
That's
that
awesome.
yeah.
And I want to help break it down for the audience, right? IP, intellectual property, you know, and in that in the music industry will be things like masters, right? Like owning your masters, which is your recording of your music. It'll be your lyrics, right, that you have written down in some type of copyrighted form, right? It'll be your music videos that you know that you're creating. It'll be your content. So intellectual property is really important, and it's a super valuable thing for every creative, and now especially more than ever, right, with digital assets becoming more ownable, right? So now more people can actually, someone could own one of your songs, where before, you know, I could buy your record, you know, I could own your CD, but I couldn't necessarily like own one of your tracks, right? So we're kind of moving into this whole new era for creatives like yourself, where that intellectual property is actually becoming more and more valuable. I would love for everybody to go look at what Snoop Dogg has been doing with blockchain. He partnered with Gala Music. They did a whole dropping NFTs I'm pretty sure he sold at least $20 million of NFTs. And if you compare that to music sales, like ain't nobody making $20 million off of selling music right now. And, you know, in 2020, 2022. So, you know, I think that there's a lot of things that is really exciting about this emergent tech. What about you, Larry? How do you look at long-term investments?
I look at it in a couple similar ways of what Reem mentioned, and I know me and you have talked about this before, but I really think that she made an excellent point about the never ever ever. You feel me? Like that's that is really really important in like the in long term investment. And I think that you also made a really good point about once it's a mindset thing, right? And so once you're able to really like dig in and kind of like bury yourself into that, you get creative. You know what I mean? And I think that was a really important piece because a lot of the lack of, you know, being able to execute this type of stuff, it really is just, and not just, but it really has a lot to do with not buying all the way in. And so you know, obviously there are emergencies, but I really think that, you know, how I look at it is, you know, really focusing on never, ever, ever touching certain things. And then also like really respecting what it is that you're trying to do. You know what I mean? Like really respecting it, because if you really respecting this goal that you have, you're going to continue to work like it's not there. I think a lot of times when we get a little bit of success in investing, because I know firsthand that I did this, you relax. You know what I mean? I think Nipsey had a quote where he was saying he saw a lot of rich people fall off and now they're looking at their stash like, where'd it go? You know what I mean? A lot of rappers talk about it. Jeezy talks about it too. Like, I'm pawning my Rolex, I'm pawning, you know what I mean? Because you have this certain level of success and then you forget, you know what I mean? You in it when you first start, you focused and you know, you do. So really like continuing to function as though ain't nothing happened. You know what I mean? Giannis Antetokounmpo talked about that with his mentality of how he consistently plays at a high level. You know what I mean? He doesn't remember what he did yesterday. He doesn't remember the accolades or the goals that he got 2 weeks ago. Every day is a new day. I don't, you know what I mean? And so I think that that's really important. The mindset of like every single day I'm working towards this goal. You know what I mean? And so I think that helps you to not really, you know, touch that type of stuff or not even really think about it, because honestly, that's the only way that you're going to achieve success with long-term investments. You have to figure out a way to not only not touch these assets, but then also really have a plan to choose assets that will give you that long-term return. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different, especially with crypto, right? And I guess it's the same with stocks, but it's a lot of different it's just a lot going on. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, they kind of just pick stuff because, you know, it might have mooned 100%, or pick this because, you know, it's a, you know, Elon is talking about it, or not to say Elon isn't cool. Shout out to Elon. But, you know, like you really have to focus and have a plan of, okay, how can I identify valuable projects that are proven with use cases that are going to be, you know, like the Googles or like the Facebook or the, you know, the Johnson and Johnson, you know, like we were talking about Boeing. You know what I mean? Boeing started, you know, over 40, 50 years ago, and they're still, you know, at the top of their game as far as what they do. And so there are projects within the emerging tech, you know, as it relates to crypto that fall under that umbrella. So really, you know, having the mentality of, okay, I'm not going to dig into this. I'm not going to touch these things. This is a long-term play, and doing whatever it takes to really stick to that. But then also, you know, having a plan and having a system with, okay, how do I choose what I'm getting into? What factors am I, you know, what factors am I considering? You know, like total value locked might be one. Like how much value is in these different projects and these different protocols. You know, so I think that those things are really, you know, what I think, you know, can help you to be successful long term. And it is a process, but it's worth it. That delayed gratification concept, right? Like really
Mhm.
taking the time to, okay, I'm gonna suffer right now, but and not even really suffer, but I'm gonna put this aside right now because 50, 60 years from now, I'm trying to chill. 30 years from now, I don't want to have to work every day and be stressed. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think that's kind of how I feel about that.
I love that. I agree with what both of y'all are saying. I think that, the delayed gratification has been really important for me as a practice, right?
Mhm.
It's like, I tell some of my homies, it's like if you want to practice delayed gratification just as a modality, take cold showers, or it
Mm,
doesn't have to be a long cold shower, but like when you're in the shower and it's nice and hot and you're feeling all good,
Facts.
turn it cold, right when you don't want to, and count down, 10 seconds. You can go 15, 20, 30. If you're feeling adventurous, you can go 30. You might go a minute, but like be in the shower. And one of the things that I do, to kind of like end these, what's it called? um, neuralistic programming, right? Is like think about how you can like stand this. Like, so imagine if the cold was there for like the rest of your life, and just kind of like think about it in that concept of like, this is what I have to go through in order to get to the other side. And once you start normalizing it, the time actually starts evaporating. But that's the same practice, right? It's like you might want to, spend that $1,000 and go on a quick trip, right? Or like spend 5,000. Or you might want to take 40,000 and go get a brand new whip, right? That might feel good driving that new whip, but instead you might want to, invest in some nodes, or you might want to put a play in that is more of a long-term investment, where like that new whip, that down payment might have been nice, but if you're looking at 3, 4 years, that might be $5 million, that 40,000 that you're investing. So I think it's just practicing, how can I create delayed gratification, right? Especially now when we're in this social media era where everything is instant. Amazon Prime is instant, like dating apps, like everybody's so used to things being so quick. And so I think it's practicing, things being a little bit more slow, and
mhm.
how do you approach something that is long term. I love that saying that people overestimate what they can do in a year, and they overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Because if you just take your time, there's so much you could get done, but we think, oh, a year, I'm going to change the world in a year. But 10 years will come by, right? The time will pass, so thinking from this long term, I think is so key.
And it
So,
adds up.
Reem, yeah, I wanted to dive into your personal experience in blockchain. I think that, the point of this show is to share our valuable perspectives. And I'm really curious of just like when you were getting in and kind of like using some of these protocols, like what were some of the aha moments, and where were some of maybe even the difficulties that you had in your experience?
Good question. So I started as a trader. So I started trading. So it was a really steep learning curve for me. Like all of the support resistance, 20 MA, this, that, all of that is like was completely new to me.
Mm,
So I think that was a very steep learning curve. It was really exciting. Um, but it was a lot of energy. It was a lot. I also dabbled in leverage. I got really lucky because I caught like a really good bull run of like January, February. So I just got really lucky. Um, ooh, um, but yeah, what are some obstacles? Obstacles. I did lose the key phrase to one wallet
mm.
to, and it sucks because I know exactly what's in it and I can check.
Yeah, right.
So that was
How
annoying.
did you lose it? Maybe that'll help the audience.
So here's the thing. I thought I'd be extremely careful. I wrote it down twice on paper and then I wrote it down in a different way. So I was like, okay, I have three different places that I can go. I think I might have just made a mistake when I was writing it down because all three don't let me recover that wallet. And so I don't know what I did. So I wish I could be more helpful, but like honestly, I don't even know what I did wrong.
Well, maybe
Um,
I would just say, like, make sure you write down your seed phrase correctly and triple check it
yeah,
that you write it down. That could be one of the things.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, one of the, what are some of the, make sure that your money is split up between places,
Hmm.
especially between centralized entities, because they can just decide to not let you transfer things out when you need it.
Oh
So
my God. Yes,
that's happened,
Binance.
right? Right? That happens where they're like, oh,
Yeah.
sorry, we can't approve this right now. Please try again in 24 hours. And it's like, I needed that right now. And
Mhm.
so make sure your things are a little split up. That I learned. Um, I tried getting into nodes and all that. I took a little bit of time last year and I was like, okay, I'm going to study this. I'm going to understand all of these passive income things. I didn't understand it well enough because I got wrecked in the Wonderland and all of those those fork thingies. But I didn't put that much in there because I was just testing things out.
Hmm.
But I don't think I was understanding it enough. So I guess
Hmm.
if you're gonna go for it for real, try to understand it. Try to understand
Yeah.
what's actually happening and how those returns are created, which I
Right.
to this day still don't understand. Um, but yeah, so that's something I tried. I tried getting into NFTs. That was before I decided that you know what, I'm gonna stop trying to make money from crypto. I'm gonna bring value to crypto by being a creative.
Hmm.
That's
That's
what I
a dope
decided.
concept.
Yep.
That's what I was like. I was like, I love this place. I love this space. Um, but I don't think the same way I didn't think that commercial real estate needed another broker like me. I don't think crypto needs another trader. Like I don't think
Right.
crypto needs me to be a trader. You know what I mean? Like I
Hmm.
I think it's great, but I don't think in the grand scheme of like the universe, that's where I fit as a
Hmm.
human. That's where I
Mhm.
bring the most value. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop doing that because I still feel like I'm running after something that's not
Mhm.
exactly in my
Mhm.
strengths.
Hmm.
And so I think that would be a piece of advice. Like try to find the thing that lights you up and brings value to the space.
Mhm.
And let me just say for the audience, I think that what Reem is saying is so on point, right? Like there's so many different ways that we can all be a part of this ecosystem, the blockchain,
Exactly.
through smart contracts, development, artists, musicians, right? There's gamers, like all games have music soundtracks. So, to like find out like how can you be a part of this Web3 revolution that's going on. Because I remember when I started getting in, it was about a year ago. It was like the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, and in the last year, projects that I've put out there or managed have done over $1 million in sales, and this is just like a brand new like ecosystem for me, a brand new part of what I do as a creative. And a lot of that money is going to the other artists that I've been working with. And it's like, that's the beautiful thing about blockchain is that, the artists do get rewarded for putting out our work. And so if you're an artist, if you have creative ideas, one of the things I do is I'm an architect, right? So you could also put together the
Mm.
pieces, but there's many different ways that you can be a part of this whole ecosystem. So I really appreciate hearing your personal experience. Tell us a little bit about ETH Denver. I know you were out there, you know, NFT LA is coming up, and all these events are really starting to pop up. So, why should people start going to some of these events if people are curious about blockchain?
Oh my God, I loved it so much. So one of the things that was different from this conference, I was at Bitcoin in June of last year, Bitcoin Miami, whatever it was called. I can't remember what that one is called.
Mhm.
One of the
Hmm.
Bitcoins in Miami. Um, and this time was completely different. Maybe because this one was ETH Denver is a little bit more dev focused. So it's a lot of the people who are building the blockchain, not so much the people who are trading on
Right.
it. It's not the speculators.
Mm.
Um, But one thing that made it very, very different is I went as part of a women's DAO. And so, as you guys might have noticed, it's a very male dominated space for the moment. And so, the DAO that I'm a part of, actually, it's called Blue DAO. It's under Harmony. Harmony Protocol is the one funding it. And the goal is to bring more women into Web3. And part of the initiatives that they have is to bring women physically into these conferences. So you get to meet people, so you get to meet like other developers and see like all the possibilities of the space face to face. Because not only was it a pandemic, but Web3 is very in front of your computer all day, right? And so it gets really isolating. And I think the human connection that happens in a place like that, in an event like that, where you get to see, oh my God, you like this stuff too? I geek out on this stuff too. And it's like you have like an immediate connection with these people, right? Because we're still a very small minority, right? So I think just connecting with people who are geeking out on the same things as you is just so validating on a human level. And then the opportunities, and then you get to see how many opportunities there are for anyone to get involved. Like anyone you said, like you said, any artist, any developer, anything like they were throwing jobs at people. I swear to God, like I was trying to avoid jobs when I was there. I was like, stop, I want to be an artist. Like people are throwing jobs at you. And so
come get paid.
go get paid. Find your way to one of these conferences. Yeah, I don't know about NFT LA because I think the focus is more NFTs, but one of these developer, I've heard Consensus was a really, really good one. I think that's in Houston or something like that.
In Austin.
Austin, yeah. Yeah. So one of those, I think those that are more focused on the builders rather than the speculators, I think those are amazing, amazing opportunities for anybody who's looking to redirect their careers or just connect with people. It's been amazing.
I love that recap. So, do any of y'all have any last thoughts? Today we've been just talking about building generational wealth, thinking forward to the future. What is this emergent tech, right? When we compare it to all the emergent techs that we've seen, why is it important? Why are we personally investing in it? And why should you think about investing in it, right? This isn't financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't think any of y'all are financial advisors. But, do your own research. There's a reason why Elon Musk is landing spaceships on Mars, and he's investing in the blockchain. So, maybe it's something that you should also look into. But yeah, I wanted to pass the mic to y'all. Have any final thoughts before we close out?
So I think that it's just really important to kind of pay attention to what's going on, because if we know anything about history, right, at least as we know it, modern history, so the last, maybe 300 years, you know what I mean? Certain people have not had access to the same things that other people have had access to, and not to get super technical, but, a lot of what we live under now as a globe is the result of, British colonialism, you know what I mean? And so that functioning has left a lot of people marginalized, specifically people of color, you know what I mean? And so I think that that's the really interesting component to this whole thing, is that a lot of people who never have had access to these tools and these opportunities, these financial instruments, these ownership components, you know what I mean? These investment opportunities, like we've never had access to it, even so far as like being able to buy houses and stuff. Like they're selling houses as NFTs now. You know what I mean? There was a point in time when I remember there was a movie called The Banker, I think, when these two black dudes were buying up all of LA, and they had to use a white guy to do it. And I'm not coming from the perspective of like it's bad or good or, all of this other stuff. It's more just like it is what it is. This is what happened. However, now we have opportunities. And I think that's really the piece that I try to focus on. And I urge people to just do their research and, tap in with people who may have, answers or may be willing to help. It's opportunities to get involved in tools and functions and protocols that can change your life from a financial perspective. And that's really the cool thing that I love about it. I love the technology, but really more than that, I love the social economic implications of this whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Like this stuff changed my life. I've lost I've lost the most money in my life, but I've also made the most because, to Reem's point, I was thugging for a second, thugging, you feel me? But at the same time, I've been able to not only get that back, but just do more research and understand and get really serious about it and really start to like research and find the ways that you can get value from it. And then also, I think she made a really good point. It's an opportunity to contribute to something. Like there's a lot of opportunities to contribute to this emerging tech and to leave your mark on history. You know what I mean? And I think that's really a cool component too. About what you can give to this thing. Like what can you add to this thing? Because it's like now it's this bubble, right? Or it's this thing. And for so long, innovation occurred. There's a guy named Andreas Antonopoulos who wrote The Internet of Money. And it's a really good book that I think anybody who wants to kind of get into Bitcoin should check out. The Internet of Money. He talked about how for so long innovation occurred at the center and then it worked its way out. You know what I mean? But now it's like innovation is occurring at the edge and it's being poured back in. You feel me? And so the way that we're now growing is from like the opposite of how we've grown for so long. And I just think that it's a really powerful opportunity. Warren Buffett said too. He said, America's going to be great. People were asking, like, are you still betting on America? And he said it's going to be great. And he said it's because for 200 and something years, we didn't even use the intellectual capital of women or Black people. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, and look how
I've
far
been
we've
saying
come
that.
with that. You know what I'm saying? Without even using. And so now I think that's really the thing. It's equal. Not equal. It'll never be equal. Maybe so much like that, but like it's
More
like
fair.
yeah. And there are women who are initiatives for women to get into blockchain. There's initiatives for people of color, and so really understanding that and finding out how you can give back, even if it's just having conversations with other people. I think it's a really unique opportunity, and so I'm really excited about the future. It's hard for me to really have hope when it comes to that type of stuff. You feel me? Because I've studied a lot of history, but I'm actually hopeful. You feel me? Like I actually really believe that things are changing. Like the narrative is finally shifting, and so what a time to be alive. You feel me?
What a
Real for
time to
real.
be alive.
I
Yes.
agree. Reem.
I say that exactly. I said that exactly to, not exactly that. No, definitely not exactly what you just said. But that last part. I said that to my mom when I explained to her how excited I was about blockchain January of when I first started. And I said, I feel privileged that this technology comes out when I'm old enough to have experience life, old enough to have a background that I can bring into this, and young enough that I can be a part of it and building it. And it's such a fucking privilege that like I want as many people as possible to come in, because everyone seems to think that like, oh, but everybody else already knows so much. It's like, no, you're still early. Just
Yeah.
come in, just jump in. And if you don't know what's happening, I'm gonna tell you right now, even the top people don't know what's happening. So
Yeah.
like I've hung out with a lot of founders while I was in ETH Denver. I just happened to
Right.
be in like some circles and they don't know what's happening. So like imagine like it's a leveled playing ground
Yeah.
for anybody who's willing to learn and put in the energy and really genuinely wants to contribute something. So it's exciting. What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive. Well, Reem, Larry, thank you so much for joining me on Motherfucking Valuable Perspectives. I loved
Hey.
everything y'all shared. Make sure that y'all follow them. Larry's at Plan Profit. Reem, what's your handles?
Reem Salmi, so RIMESALMI.
Amazing. I'll put that in the show notes. Make sure if you like this, you hit the subscribe button, smash on that like, share it with your
Mhm.
homies, your homettes. You know what I mean? Make sure you're spreading the love, spreading the word. And until next time, y'all, peace and love.